accusing someone else of doing exactly what he himself is doing. Like, that's insane.
Right.
You'd be a crazy person to do that. But they do it at every single turn. And in fact, they do it so consistently, it's the only reliable gauge of what they're actually doing. So as soon as they started yelping about democracy, I'm such a literal dumb person. I'm like, democracy? Why are they talking about democracy? What does that have to do with democracy? And then I realized, of course.
And to start our new year off, we have to talk about something that happened on New Year's Eve weekend. What is up, guys? John Claymore. Happy New Year to everyone out there. This video right here, of course, will be released on January the 2nd. I'm making it on the 1st. It will be the first of 2 videos that will be coming out tomorrow on this channel and one on Gear Issue 33. The second video will be breaking down exactly how the year is going to go, what the actual goal and what is actually going to be happening as far as content is concerned. But of course, we got to do a video to kind of explain how things are going to go, at least as far as the political realm is concerned. So Tucker Carlson recently got into trouble again. This time over mentioning Ben Shapiro. Now, guys, this right here is not uncommon going into an election year that you're going to have people bicker at one another. It's kind of the nature of the beast. But, of course, this topic was already covered on this channel once before. I covered it back in, I think it was September, October. No, it was October of last year. It was right after the Israel-Gaza Strip situation occurred, after the October 7th attack, and Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson were going at it at that time. Or at least Ben Shapiro was going at Tucker Carlson, and Carlson never really and truly responded. Well, this past weekend, he decided to have a sit-down with Breaking Points' Saagar Engeti. Now, guys, I'm not going to give you too much information on Saagar. I've never really truly been a fan of his. I've always felt that he was kind of weak. But then again, though, they have kind of the same formula between him and Crystal Ball that Sean Hannity and Alan Colmes had during Hannity and Colmes. Basically, in that case there, Colmes was the liberal that was playing second fiddle to Sean Hannity, obviously on purpose. Hannity getting all the big hits in because it was a Hannity-centric show. The same thing is the same case with Breaking Points. However, it is more aimed towards Crystal Ball, who's the progressive on the platform. Don't get me started on these two and their takes because, quite frankly, they've had some extremely bad ones. But Carlson would go on, and of course, this right here is what he would say.
I don't really care, but I did think it showed like the level of not just corruption, which I knew, but of like emotional instability and craziness. I mean, there are people, and I stopped reading any of it, but there are people on the right who have spent the last 2 months every single day focused on a conflict in a foreign country as our own country becomes dangerously unstable on the brink of financial collapse with tens of millions of people who shouldn't be here in the country. We don't know their identities or the purpose of their being here. Like stuff that's could destroy the country for real and make it impossible for my kids to live here. They've said nothing about that, and they're focused with laser intensity on foreign conflicts. And I'm like, at some point, I've got 4 kids. If I'm so caught up in the problems of my neighbor's children and completely ignoring my own children as they get addicted to drugs and kill themselves, you know, I'm not against helping my neighbor's kids, but clearly I don't love my kids. I mean, that's the only logical conclusion. And they don't care about the country at all. And that's kind of their prerogative. But I do, because I have no choice, because I'm from here. My family's been here hundreds of years. I plan to stay here. Like, I'm shocked by how little they care about the country, and including the person you mentioned. And I can't imagine how someone like that could get an audience of people who claim to care about America, because he doesn't, obviously. Right?
Right. Well, I mean, Tucker, we've seen it too on free speech. I mean, people who've become multimillionaires, who've, made entire careers, who've, literally became famous, on this very reason. I know you've spoken about this previously, but it's very important to our audience as well, is that, standing up for free speech rights of people you disagree with is probably the most important exercise. And we've seen some of that come for American citizens on Palestine. How do you work through this too, when we're both under such immense pressure, even social pressure of like, how could you support this? Take maybe the context of the university presidents. We've got billionaires like Bill Ackman, I'm curious what you make of this. My assessment is they're upset that they're not included as marginalized within the DEI regime.
It was clearly a dig at Ben Shapiro, who I'm going to be showing you guys some stuff from him that occurred last year, because it goes back to the video that I originally made on these two and why they were going at one another. So if you want to know my personal opinions on Shapiro and why it is that Tucker is catching a lot of heat, well, he's catching heat because Tucker Carlson, as you know, is a little bit more America first, and Ben Shapiro is a little bit more of a neocon. Now, let me say this right now. There were a lot of people out there putting a lot of takes out there saying that Ben Shapiro is a patriot, all that type of stuff there, and that Tucker Carlson hates America. But then you go through the tweets and you go through everything that was said, and you get stuff like, I don't care about the browning of America, or make sure you get your vaccine. They're dope. Stuff like that, which it obviously does exist in the annals of Ben Shapiro's Twitter profile and things that he has said. Now, Tucker, the thing about Tucker is this here. Tucker, for the most part, is a paleo-conservative. That's what he is. He's more of an American-centric conservative. Gets sometimes called common sense conservative. I'm a little bit in between both that and some neocon tendencies. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you about that. And I think I've been pretty well consistent, especially when it comes to this Israel-Gaza ordeal, which my feeling is this here. Israel is an actual friend. It's we can debate the merits of that friendship or not, and how it is that Christians are treated over there. We can debate that all you want. But obviously, as a Christian myself, obviously I'm going to feel that we need to support that land. However, that does not mean that we should be putting troops on the ground over there. I believe there's a common sense way of actually handling this situation. Tucker's deal is that he's obviously irked about the fact that Ben Shapiro gets upset about the fact that we're not actively involved. Now, let me give you very, very quickly my take, and then we're going to go back to what Shapiro actually was saying, because obviously I got to bring up some things from the past that I even reported on before. And my feeling is this right here. We should not be putting boots on the ground in that nation. What we should probably be doing is maybe having a fleet in the Mediterranean and a fleet in the Indian Ocean to keep Iran and Syria on the sidelines. Syria has not moved towards Israel yet. Egypt, of course, is trying to be cool about this entire situation. The country of Jordan, while angry with Israel, they have also, for the most part, been, let's just say, they haven't physically done anything. The fighting, of course, is between Israel and Hamas. And, of course, at some point in time, Hezbollah is probably going to get involved, which is strange because they haven't been as active that we can see. But that is definitely going to be coming soon. The whole point here is that the best way to support this nation, that there being Israel, is just to simply put somebody on the side to keep other people out. Let Israel and Hamas go at it. Now, really quick, I want to go ahead and be perfectly clear about this. Nobody wants to see a genocide in this region, but then again, at the same time, we also don't want to see over 200 to 300 Jewish citizens get killed in their nation as well. As I've been saying from the very start, it's who threw the first rock. Yes, Israel does have a right to defend itself. That right there is how we should be treating the situation. But of course, when you have someone like Shapiro who gets upset about somebody having a take simply saying we need to secure our own borders, like what I'm going to show you now.
And Tucker, by the way, then continued along these lines. He did an interview with Vivek Ramaswamy, and he likened what just happened in Israel, the kidnapping of women and their rape. I mean, he's showing video of this happening, like as he's talking about this. He compared that to drug overdose deaths in the United States. Now, I believe we should fully care about the 100,000 drug overdose deaths that happen in the United States. These are two completely different issues. To go this far afield to link the issues, the only reason you're doing this is because you wish to downplay the atrocity that just happened in Israel. You're not upplaying the atrocity of what's happening on America's streets. Those are two different types of atrocities. People who are addicted to fentanyl, sticking needles in their arms and overdosing is a moral blight. It is a moral atrocity and a moral evil for people to kidnap women, rape them, and drag them back to the Gaza border. Those are not the same thing. And Tucker knows that. But this is a cheap way of telling you not to look. Don't look. Stop caring. Because after all, what does it matter? What does it matter? Now, again, I don't know who thinks that that's a sophisticated point of view, especially when nobody is calling for America to go to war with Iran. The entire purpose of having an aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean is to avoid that. But here is Tucker playing. I don't even know the game he's playing. This is just it's a dumb game.
But you don't have to look far in the United States for moral outrages also on video. And there's not a city in this country, not just the big cities, but cities of 10,000 people. I was in one yesterday that doesn't have some constellation of drug-addicted young people living outside. We call them the homeless. They're drug addicts. And they're addicted to drugs that were imported across an open border.
What does that have to do with price of tea in China? I don't understand.
More than 100,000 a year. Now, you could call it genocide. You can call it whatever you want, but it's the death of over 100,000 Americans a year and the living death of millions.
Well, you can't call it genocide. It's not genocide.
So sure. I don't understand.
I'm sorry, people who are addicted to drugs and living outside.
Israel, and again, I want to add my voice to that because I'm a human being. But
oh, sure you do.
You
sound very outraged.
The outrage among Republican presidential candidates was so much more intense. One of them took to a bullhorn and started yelling about it. I get it, but no one would think to do that about the 100,000 American young people murdered every year. And
Because who are you yelling at? Who are you yelling at? First of all, people are on
Obviously upset about the border situation, and everybody should be upset about the situation. And I don't know if Ben seems to understand that. Let's play a little bit more.
overdoses and the open border all the time. All the time. What is he even talking about? What he's attempting to is minimize what happened in Israel. He's not attempting to maximize what happened in the United States. He's attempting to minimize, as though America can't walk and chew gum, morally speaking, at the same time, which is absurd. And those two things are nothing alike. I'm sorry, that is not alike. It is not alike for drug smugglers to smuggle drugs over the border, which someone then takes and shoves into their arm and then they die of an overdose. That is not the same thing. I promise you, it is not the same thing as a terrorist breaking into your home and murdering your children in their beds in front of you and dragging your wife off to be raped in Gaza. That is not the same thing. Pretending that it is immoral. It's a moral blight. It's idiocy. It's just moral stupidity at the highest level. Of course we should care about what happens with fentanyl. Of course we should care about, we should close our border. Have I been unclear about this? Of course America should have closed borders when it comes to this sort of stuff. I'm on the same side as Tucker on that. I just don't understand why he's not on my side when it comes to Hamas has to be wiped off the face of the earth. What exactly is the counter argument? In any case, this sort of moral sophistication is predicated on only one of a few possible hypotheses. The most dark and terrible is the possibility that people just don't give a damn when Jews get killed by terrorists. I'm not accusing Tucker of that. I'm not accusing Whitlock of that. In fact, I'm not even accusing the AOCs of the world of that. Although I think she's closer to the border, considering the only tweet she has sent in this entire ridiculous situation is a tweet finding one Jew in New York saying a bad thing that the Israeli government does not even carry forth. That's the only thing she's seen fit to tweet about this. I'm not accusing all these people of that. What I am accusing them of is a moral blindness that must be caused by a complete flattening of the cultural landscape, in which everybody thinks the same way that we do, and that every problem can be solved in the same way, and that it is of no consequence whether evil walks the earth, because all problems are basically, that's what realism truly is. Well, that's not realistic. That's stupid. Those are not the same thing. Again, when it comes to policy questions about what should be done in the Middle East, that is a question of prudence. It's a question of pragmatism. It's a question of American interests, which again are not always identical with Israeli interests. When it comes to comparing the Holocaust level evil we just saw in Kfar Aza with people overdosing on the
case where two guys are obviously, one is supposed to be more noble than the other, and one person thinks that us getting involved in the conflict in the Middle East is obviously the more noble thing to do, whereas Tucker, on the other hand, thinks that we should be taking care of our own. I have said this before, I'll continue to say this again, and Ben even said it. You know, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. However, it is to what extent of which you are willing to actually do walking and chewing gum at the same time. Me personally, I think that we can secure the border, and of course we can also referee that situation in the Middle East without using massive amounts of taxpayer dollars and not putting not one single U.S. person on the ground in that region. I think we can do this, and I think the message would be sent loud and clear. And I also believe it would be more effective if we did it that way rather than actually putting troops on the ground. Israel is an ally. It is a friend of ours. But once again, and you'll probably hear me say it again, you can debate the merits of how Christians are treated in that country because some laws have been passed that, quite frankly, are not. And, of course, even I have got to watch myself because of the YouTube censorship, the YouTube algorithm. I have to actually watch that myself. But the thing is this right here. Tucker, I think, has got a lot more valid points, but we're going to continue to have this discussion, of course, going into 2024. Many of the neoconservative types are starting to see that the Republican Party itself, or the GOP, is starting to move away from the actual neoconservative points of view. This right here obviously is going to get debated a lot in 2024. Just understand that it is politics, and of course they try to make politics personal. And of course it does get personal. And they do say some extremely inflammatory stuff, and people let you know who they really and truly are. But the thing you have to understand about presidential election years is that it always gets crazy, and it gets crazier and crazier and crazier the more and more the year goes by. We've got all kinds of things coming up that I'll be covering in other videos this year. For example, I see another race war coming because they always happen every 4 years. I see more riots. I see more chaos, especially given the fact that we have a current president that, quite frankly, can't even put two words together at this moment in time. And also to go on top of this, we have inflation through the roof, and we are spending billions of dollars on things that, quite frankly, we don't need to spend money on. Not to mention the fact that she just had Xi Jinping, the leader of China, basically say that they were going to try to reunify Taiwan this year. So once again, you got the conflict. You've also got this situation in Guyana with Venezuela. So yes, 2024 is probably going to be out there, and it's probably going to be chaotic. So when you hear Tucker Carlson, who I'm going to show you guys in a second, talk to Jimmy Dore and talk about his fears for 2024, just know that he's actually telling the truth. There are a lot of things to be concerned about going into this new year. It shouldn't surprise anybody that Tucker Carlson would obviously be a little bit irked by this. Now, the reason why I'm doing this video is to explain to you guys that in 2024, there's going to be a lot of conversations. It is a presidential year, and it's more so going to get political than what it was during the midterm elections of 2022. When you have midterms, obviously you are voting either for the agenda that's currently in office or you are voting to stop the agenda that's currently in office. 2022, for example, we were expecting a massive red wave and we did not get one. We got pretty much just a little red trickle. We got back the House of Representatives, but it was not a big majority, and of course, we pretty much lost the Senate. Congress, on the other hand, can control and keep an actual administration in place. And of course, the polling data seems to suggest that the current administration probably will not hold beyond 2024. But I'm not making a prediction on that because I have seen stranger things happen. These types of conversations that occur on the right, the exact same conversations will occur on the left, which of course are more ideological in nature, are going to happen. So you shouldn't be surprised. Just understand that it's politics. And of course, you don't want to take things personal. Even though this channel is more of a culture war channel, this year, of course, the takes are going to be a little bit more in essay format, a lot more than we'll talk more about that in the second video of the day to talk about exactly the direction of the channel and where it's going to be going and how I'm going to be posting this year. The thing is this right here. These types of ideological conversations are, in fact, going to be had, so we shouldn't be surprised that Ben Shapiro, who, by the way, is Jewish and is more of a neoconservative, is probably going to want the U.S. to get more active in this conflict, where Tucker Carlson wants to be a little bit more of an isolationist. Ben Shapiro is upset, or anybody's upset, that Tucker Carlson had this particular take that he gave, where he basically pointed out that Shapiro may, of course, care a little bit more about a certain nation and so on, which, of course, I have said before, if you really and truly want to contribute to the situation, maybe you should volunteer your services over there in the Middle East. But the thing is this right here. Tucker Carlson saying stuff like this should not surprise anybody. This is the same guy who also interviewed Satanists on his show. Of course, he mostly did it to make fun of them. I wish I had the photos of him doing that, the videos. But this guy will pretty much talk to anyone. As recently, he had a conversation with Jimmy Dore, a man who's obviously on the left. Let me play some of this for you. This is who Tucker is. This is how he is. And while there are some things I do disagree with him about, you got to admit the man's pretty well consistent, so I don't see the reasons why people are saying stuff like he hates America or he's not patriotic.
I do think, not to play shrink, I noticed we banned Sigmund Freud in the last 20 years, so maybe there's a reason for that, because you're not supposed to look too deeply at motive anymore, and I wonder why. But it is a syndrome. It's a psychological syndrome where, like, a normal person would be incapable of accusing someone else of doing exactly what he himself is doing. Like, that's insane. Right. You'd be a crazy person to do that. But they do it at every single turn. And in fact, they do it so consistently, it's the only reliable gauge of what they're actually doing. So as soon as they started yelping about democracy, I'm such a literal dumb person. I'm like, democracy? Why are they talking about democracy? What does that have to do with democracy? And then I realized, of course, that's the thing they hate. So they are posing as its lone defenders. Of course, I mean, it's just go down the list, whatever they're calling you. I never really think anyone's a racist, but they've called me a racist so many times. I would love to get their search histories because I bet they're racist. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just, it's just super interesting. So, you know, I'm worried about the next year. I really am. And I think I have cause to worry about it. It feels like, and I hope I'm wrong. I've certainly been wrong a lot. I don't lie if I can help it, but I have been wrong. And I hope I am once again wrong when I predict that this will be a very different country in December of 2024. It feels that way. It feels like we're on the brink. Like, they've taken the mask off. They're not hiding who they are anymore. They're not trying to convince you anymore. They're not pretending it's for your own good. They don't care about your own good, and they're not saying they do. And so when you reach that stage, like, what's next? Not good things at all. They're not even pretending to rule by consensus. They're ruling by force. When you give up argument, you get to force. That's, you know, there's nothing left.
Who is not patriotic, obviously, is someone like Jimmy Dore, who's very, very much from the Blame America crowd. Tucker is simply pointing out that he is scared that 2024 is going to be a year of pure chaos. He has even hinted that the current GOP nominee or current frontrunner, Donald Trump, may possibly get, can't really say it here, but the belief is that obviously this right here could occur, or they will at least attempt it. I am one to believe that 2024 will be a crazy year, given the fact that we have a current institution or a current establishment that, for the most part, does not care about anything except keeping their power. They're losing their power every day. They're losing it all ends. Carlson understands that it's going to get chaotic, and a big part of that establishment is actually the conservative establishment, which, of course, does include Mr. Shapiro and the Daily Wire. I've never really actually been a fan of that network, even though I do agree with these guys about 90 to 95% of the time and their takes itself, and especially on the issues. But the thing is this right here. Tucker Carlson is simply saying that America needs to be put first rather than other nations. Now, does that mean that he's a pure isolationist? No, he's not. If anything, Carlson has made some takes before in his past. Of course, he's evolved over time. People do that basically hint at the fact that he at one point in time was very, very much a neoconservative himself. I wish I had all those takes that I could play for you guys, but if I did that there and gave you every single little example, then obviously this video would probably be about 2 or 3 hours long. I'm not looking to do that. I understand you guys are coming off New Year's, you guys are coming off Christmas, and I'm not going to put you through that. The thing is this right here. Carlson is a guy who was more on that neoconservative spectrum, and over time he has become like, you know what, man, should we really and truly be spending money in this area? Should we really and truly be spending money on that? Should we really and truly be spending money on this? My approach is a little bit more of a, I would say a little bit more centered. Like, for example, England, for example, is an actual ally. It is an actual friend. So obviously we're going to want to help out England. We're obviously going to come to their aid. Same thing with Israel. And of course, but you have other nations out there who really, to tell you the truth, just freeload off the United States. I think that that's where Tucker is really and truly at when it comes to this. But I haven't seen a single war or a single situation where Ben Shapiro did not want this country to get involved, at least on some level. This is a situation that I believe it needs to play out. This right here being the Israel-Hamas situation. And I do believe that this year, unlike the situation in Ukraine and Russia, I do believe that this situation right here will probably resolve itself a lot faster, at least as far as Hamas is concerned. But we are still expecting something to come from Hezbollah. Speaking of Russia, Ukraine, I don't know if anybody knows this or not, but Ukraine has lost a great deal of their population and a great big portion of their male population ages 18 to 40. Yeah, us getting involved in that situation has pretty much angered I'll put it this way here. The Russian resolve in taking that country has not really changed. If anything, it's probably intensified. And I think us continuing to send billions, and I mean billions of taxpayer dollars over to that region, especially given the fact that they are not even an ally, that they're being Ukraine, has obviously put this situation in a lot of people's minds this year that, look, our inflation is through the roof. We got problems here. We got to take care of that. We got to take care of a border. We got to secure this bad boy. And I think people are starting to see that the Tucker Carlson way about this entire situation is actually the right situation. Look, we can walk and chew gum, yes, but we need to only be invested in things that, quite frankly, actually interest us. As I said before, have a fleet in the Mediterranean and have a fleet in the Indian Ocean and just simply play referee. But for the most part, let's focus on taking care of our own and our own nation. That situation in the Middle East will, in fact, resolve itself. And if Shapiro is upset about the fact that, of course, Tucker Carlson thinks that we should care more about our own, then obviously Ben has got some serious, and I mean serious issues. With that right there being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and halt this video right here. I'm going to go ahead and put an end to this one here. This would be the first video of the day, just kind of explaining what's going on there. The second video that will be coming out will be the actual updates video to kind of give you guys an idea of exactly how things are going to go this year. So make sure you guys stick around for that. Also, there's also going to be a video on Gear Issue 33 as well that will come out tomorrow. If you are not subscribed to Gear Issue 33, please do. I may change the name of that channel to Semper Gumby. I'm not sure just yet. However, we're going to be going in a direction of military movie reviews there. And a lot of the takes that I wanted to bring over about the military and Marxism and all that stuff that was actually infesting our institutions, those videos will be coming over here to John Claymore, which I have not decided to change the name of the channel yet. I'll probably just shrink it back to Claymore is what I'll probably do. So make sure you guys stick around for that. Make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.